My name is Ryan Snelling, and welcome to my Watch Diary. It feels great to be back here with you guys today. Did you know I was gone? Did you miss me? I hope you did. I missed you guys. I missed making content. But I'm not going to lie, I had a great time not making content. You know, if this was a few years ago, if I was doing Sight and Sound or Schmoes Know, I wouldn't take a day off. I would overwork myself trying to create content, and I don't have to do that anymore. I get to relax. You know, we're much more chill on Rewatch Ryan, and so I enjoyed myself. If you don't know, I went back to my hometown in Kentucky, and I spent a lot of time with family and friends, catching up, doing Kentucky things. It's not like I'm going to the beach or theme parks or, you know, I don't know, whatever people do on vacation. I just relaxed by the pool. Like I said, I caught up with friends by fire pits, drank beer, went on a pontoon boat in the Kentucky River. It was my Nana's 85th birthday, so I hung out with her and a whole bunch of my family, cousins I hadn't seen in years. I caught up with my niece and my nephews. I met a nephew for the very first time. Just a lot going on. But I'm home now. I'm back in Arizona, and the flight was great too. Wasn't too bad. But yeah, I did miss making content, but I also relished in it. And you know, technically today was my first full day back, and I went back to work, and I went to the movie theater right after work, and now I'm here. So I kind of just threw myself right back into the groove, but it's okay. It's all good. I'm excited to get to work here. I just posted my out of the theater reaction to Jurassic World Dominion. A lot of the stuff that I say on that video, I'm going to say here too, but if you want, you can definitely check that out if you haven't already. This podcast is going to contain, of course, the non-spoiler review of Jurassic World Dominion. I might put a spoiler. You'll know if I put a spoiler section at the end or not. It'll be brief if I do, probably, because I don't know that I really want to spend a whole lot of time talking about this movie. Like I said, I have the non-spoiler review to do. I'm going to do an every movie ever, ranking every Jurassic Park movie, and I'm going to do an every movie ever for Colin Trevorrow as well. And I might do an every movie ever. It depends on how much time I take doing all this. I might do one for Mission Impossible. If I don't do it within this podcast, you can expect it here in the next couple of weeks, probably. I watched Mission Impossible 3 through Fallout during my vacation. Funny story. My sister had never seen them, so I showed those to her, and that was a lot of fun. It came out of seeing Top Gun Maverick twice while I was on vacation. So I took my sister and my mom to see it the first time, and then my sister wanted to see it again, saw it with her again. I've seen it a total of 3 times now. There was talk of a 4th outing. I think I probably would have kiboshed that. I'll let my sister go with somebody else. I didn't know if I wanted to, like, how good would I feel if I got back on the podcast or, like, went back to work and was like, yeah, I watched Top Gun Maverick 3 times on vacation. Like, come on. Can't do that. Can't be doing that. But I think I said it on the reaction, but I definitely said it to my family, because they were all like, why are you seeing it so many times? I don't know if I'm ready to only get to see Top Gun Maverick on a TV screen for the rest of my life. Did that make sense? I don't know if I'm ready to only be able to watch Top Gun Maverick on a TV. So anyway, but yeah, my sister was amazed by the practicality of it, the stunt work by Tom Cruise and the other pilots and actors, and so that's why I showed her those Mission Impossible movies for the first time. And I always thought that she would like them, but I'm glad that she did. So anyway, so I did rewatch all of those, and I could do that every movie ever if I wanted to. But anyway, that's just a really quick, a really brief catch up as to what I've been doing. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you enjoyed the videos that were posted while I was gone. You know, we did an every movie ever for Christopher Nolan, so that's up on the channel right now. And then I did a rewatch of Prometheus with Brando, which was a whole lot of fun. It's always fun. I haven't always posted the conversations, but I've had great conversations about Prometheus in the past, and that was just another one. And also I put up a really fun video. If you don't know Jay Williams, he was on Sight and Sound. He's on the channel. On this channel when it was Sight and Sound. Me and him did a out of the theater reaction for Jurassic World 7 years ago, and I posted that on the channel as well. So that's just kind of fun. It's just literally in the car reacting to Jurassic World. So that's up on the channel right now as well, of course, with my out of the theater reaction for Dominion. So anyway, all that fun stuff is out. Yeah, housekeeping. I don't have my trusty Trenta cold brew. I have a lemon LaCroix. That is because I'm recording this Thursday evening. Like I said, I just got out of the theater. It's a little unusual, but I had something come up at work tomorrow, and I'm recording a anniversary rewatch for E.T. in the morning, so I didn't have time to do Watch Diary on Friday morning as I normally do it. So I'm doing it at night. Don't need cold brew. I still haven't eaten, though. That was my mistake. I didn't eat before sitting down to record, but that's okay. Like I said, I went to work today, and I had some really nice comments from one of my coworkers in particular. Now, I'm really self-conscious about my coworkers listening to my podcast. Like, I definitely talk about it, and maybe part of me like doesn't expect them to listen. Just because it is so much focused about movies, and not everybody at work likes movies the way that I do, or at least enough to listen to content about it. So for the most part, it's worked out to where I don't really have to combine those universes. You know, I have this thing over here and that thing over there. And I also just in general try not to go too much into my work life. Just because, I don't know, I don't want to get myself into trouble. So anytime a coworker kind of like mentions to me or like says that they want to listen to the podcast, it's not that I don't want them to or I don't like it. I just, I don't know. It kind of just surprises me, I guess, because I just don't know how I feel about it. But I did get really great comments from a coworker of mine that I really, really appreciated. And she was, I don't know, maybe one of the last people that I'd ever expect to, I don't know, watch me on YouTube. But she said a lot of nice things, and it made me really happy. And I'm, of course, proud of the channel and proud of the content, but it really made me feel good because she enjoyed it as well. And I think it even surprised her, like, because it's not something that she normally seeks out or checks out or listens to or whatever. So that was really nice, and I really appreciated that. She mentioned listening to the Christopher Nolan every movie ever. She said that she had never seen Memento before, and I talked her into seeing Memento. So I thought that was pretty cool. That was nice. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the videos that I put out on vacation, but now we're back at it. I am going to kind of breeze through. I'm going to breeze through a lot of the topics today, I think, just because, again, it's Thursday night, and if I want to, I have a lot to talk about. But look, I guess the first thing that I actually don't want to talk, I was going to say, I guess the first thing I want to talk about is, but I actually don't want to talk about this. I don't know that I'm qualified to. I don't know a whole lot about this situation, but maybe it will allow me to talk about something bigger, which is separating art from artists. It's something I've talked about before. This is certainly not going to be the last time that I talk about it, because I think it's up to the individual. So maybe every time that I'm confronted with one of these things, as a fan of movies, as a fan of actors, as a fan of filmmakers, maybe I'll talk it out and I'll just let you listen. And you don't have to agree with me. You can decide for yourself. I truly believe that it's just up to the person how they want to judge art and how they want to judge artists. But I'm recording this at the time when it was just, we got another Ezra Miller report. And it's a complicated subject, but I think up until this point, we were kind of led to believe that Warner Brothers was just going to sweep everything under the rug. I mean, there were a couple of days, consecutive days, where we got reports where Ezra Miller was just raising hell in Hawaii. But now what's come out the past couple of days, and forgive me if I misspeak on some of the details, I'm going to try to be as broad as possible, but as precise as possible in my explanation and my thoughts, if that makes sense. It was reported that Ezra Miller has apparently been supposedly grooming a young person, supplying them with drugs and alcohol, having what could be considered an inappropriate relationship with a young person. And there are abuse allegations, and a lot of this is coming from parents, but the parents have been like doing weird stuff too over the years and like have handled this situation in a weird way. The this person that Ezra Miller supposedly groomed came out with a statement that was really weird. It's all just odd. But I kind of decided how I felt about Ezra Miller from the headline. Like, the details helped me understand, but the headline itself was enough for me to just put the nail in the coffin here. I am officially done with Ezra Miller. Absolutely done with him. I no longer support him, and anything that he does, I am throwing all of his movies into the recycle bin, figuratively speaking, and I'm just done with him. I'm tired of him. I'm sick of him. He is one of these people, like Chris Brown, where I'm like literally just surprised that we haven't canceled the motherfucker. I mean, I'm just tired of hearing about him. I'm tired of looking at him, and I'm done with anything that he's in. You know, he's in a couple of like excellent movies, but I just don't want to see him. I don't want to support him anymore, at all. And I don't want to support Warner Brothers as long as they are continuing to put out the Flash movie. I'm just annoyed with all of his antics. He just seems like a big piece of shit. I don't know. I guess the right thing to say is that I hope he gets help. Sure, I hope he gets help, but I'm done supporting him. I can't stand him. He's worn out his welcome. He's done more than enough to get fired from this Flash movie. Look, and I'm not even acting like it's a hard situation, but sometimes the decision is easy. And I'm hoping that Warner Brothers and whoever's in charge over there of getting rid of him gets rid of him. And unfortunately, it's going to cost money to either trash the Flash or recast the Flash, reshoot the Flash. Yeah, it's going to suck. It's going to cost money, and I'm not going to act like I know how to spend money or run a studio. At least in this conversation, I'm not going to act like it. But look, this is unheard of. The years that I've been following film, covering film, podcasting about it, I've never seen anything like this. Yeah, there are actors who do trash things, but I've never had a conversation like this. And a studio's never been confronted with a trash human being leading a major franchise, leading a movie that's supposed to change the game in their franchise. I mean, I know a lot's riding on this. And look, I want to see Batfleck. It pains me to say it, but the fact that I don't get to see Batfleck, because I'm not seeing this movie if they release it with Ezra Miller. I'm not seeing it. And it's gonna suck to not see the last Batfleck outing, but they're gonna have to figure something out because I'm done with Ezra Miller. Anything he's a part of doesn't exist to me anymore. I don't know how you feel about it. Like I said, there's a lot of details. It's a little suspicious. Some of the things going on with the parents and the person, I don't know, what could be the victim. There's a lot of ambiguity here, but Ezra Miller is just around too much of this shit, and I'm done as a fan. And I know it's, I'm sure you could roll your eyes at my take on it, but I'm sick of it. So anyway, I just had to get that out there real quick. Just a brief little live diary announcing, planting the flag. Done with Ezra Miller. Absolutely sick of him. I hate his face. Get him out of my face. Sorry, I just had to go down that road. Yeah, we're gonna jump right into it, guys. It's time. The moment you've been waiting for. This is a non-spoiler section, a non-spoiler review of Jurassic World Dominion. And I'm going to pull up, I forgot to pull up my notes real quick, so I'll get that going. But, I can get started without it because it's Jurassic World. It's a legacy sequel to one of the most iconic movies of all time, a high-profile trilogy Jurassic World, despite how I feel about it, makes a ton of money. And, I was shocked. I saw a 4 p.m. showing of it. Usually on Thursday nights at 7 p.m., the earliest, but I saw 4 p.m. And the theater was mostly packed. Like, it was a really good crowd, packed crowd. And I guess people are excited about this. And that's the thing that, in a way, I love that I'm out of touch, or at least more out of touch than I was, say, a few years ago with this, and especially before COVID. And I think I'm a little more out of touch with the energy around certain films, but I legitimately did not feel any heat whatsoever for this movie until about 5 days ago. And by heat, I mean like buzz. I didn't feel it until about 5 days ago. I guess when the cast started doing the press, and it was all shiny and new, that they were all together and having interviews and discussing the end of the franchise and all this kind of stuff. That's when I started feeling it. But even that was so short-lived, because here we are at the time that I'm recording this on Rotten Tomatoes. Jurassic World Dominion has a 35%. And it was announced today that it's officially the lowest rated movie in the Jurassic Park franchise, at this 35%. Right now, over 500 verified ratings. It's an 84% audience score. That's a big difference. I'll tell you which one I side with here in just a minute. Maybe you already know if you checked out the early reaction that I posted on video. But Jurassic World is not something that I was ever truly in love with. I definitely saw its flaws, and when I left the theater, as you can tell, I definitely was picking Jurassic World apart. But I think going into Fallen Kingdom and going into it with the new director and the new angle and the new tone, I kind of relaxed a little bit. I don't think Fallen Kingdom is that great either, but I sort of just relaxed and managed my expectations and took it for what it was. But it's not lasting, these movies. They're not lasting. They're not anything that I discussed. I don't think about them. It was just kind of cool. Now that we're in this era of legacy sequels and legacy franchises coming back around, concluding, if you will, the way that, say, Rise of Skywalker concluded Star Wars, or Skywalker Saga, excuse me. It was just going to be cool at the end of the day to see the original legacy cast with the new cast. And now we could argue how, was it ever going to be interesting? Are we really in love with the Jurassic World cast? Do we really care about the Jurassic World characters the way that we care about the Jurassic Park characters? I would say absolutely not. But it's something, and it's fan service, and it's worth checking out, I guess. But, I say that because, unfortunately, I didn't want to see this movie today. I went to work. I had to rush to the theater after work. And I'm not going to lie, I don't know if I had an ounce in me that was excited to see this movie. I'm not going to lie. Maybe I got a little excitement seeing Jeff Goldblum, or looking forward to seeing Jeff Goldblum, but ultimately I just didn't want to do it. And I sat down there, and it did feel like for the first time that this was an obligation for the podcast, and that doesn't feel good. But I mean, it's a huge movie. I felt like I had to cover it. It's going to give me a lot of content, a lot of discussion. There is a lot of discussion to be had here with this. It's not like there isn't, and I have nothing to say, because I do. But I do want you to know that I wasn't looking forward to this movie at all. And let's just get into it. Again, non-spoilers. I thought this movie was atrocious for so many ways. I like little accolades. It might just spoil what I'm going to do with every movie ever, but that's fine. I think it's the worst Jurassic World movie, easily. I think it's the worst Jurassic Park movie, easily. This movie has a lot in common with Rise of Skywalker. It's a very easy parallel. Jurassic World and The Force Awakens both premiered in the same year, 2015. Legacy rebootquels to get us more excited about these franchises. I'm going to use the word legacy a lot, so sorry. I've probably already used it a lot. But there's a lot in common with these two trilogies. A difference, though, I feel like the fandoms are different. I feel like the Jurassic Park fandom, even though the original movie is such a classic movie that every film fan and every general audience movie goer knows, there's not the fandom is much more casual. I feel like it's like enough to make Jurassic World a big box office success, but these aren't movies that are discussed in daily life. I don't know that I've ever had a conversation outside of a YouTube video or a podcast, or outside of, I don't know, when I used to live with, movie Twitter personified, if I ever had a conversation about the Jurassic World movies, and I just think people enjoy them, and then that's it. There's no real lore. You can only really go so far with how much you love the characters. The concept of Jurassic Park, I don't think it actually allows much room for these overarching stories and these huge grand narrative ideas. The original movie is so large and thought-provoking and intriguing and sustaining, that none of the other sequels have lived up to it. None of them. Even starting with Lost World. I mean, they just always will pale in comparison, just because I don't know what else there is to do. And, there's aspects of poaching here, aspects of the black market, and those are interesting ideas to an extent, but it's not enough meat on the bone. And no sequel has ever really taken off. And I just don't know that they've ever had the right approach or right attitude when it comes to tackling this. And so the fact that there is an epic conclusion to this is an interesting, maybe uninteresting idea in general when you compare it to something as rich in lore and narrative and themes, quite frankly, as Star Wars. It's a completely different mechanism in that way. But again, I guess the benefit is that the casual movie fan will go see Jurassic World Dominion and it will make a ton of money, and I'm sure people will get excited. But I'm here to burst bubbles. So another reason why this is like The Rise of Skywalker, again, it ends this new trilogy that is frankly disappointing. It blends old characters with new characters, and it makes the previous two movies worse. Like, I already had my opinion on Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom, and it wasn't amazing, but this one makes it worse. The only movie that this doesn't make worse is Jurassic Park, because it's untouchable as far as I'm concerned. No movie can ruin Jurassic Park. But this movie makes Jurassic World worse, because ultimately it doesn't do anything with the characters that I didn't love in general that is satisfying. The one thing that actually it doesn't have with Rise of Skywalker, one thing it doesn't have in common with Rise of Skywalker, is that Rise of Skywalker, at least say, you might prefer Force Awakens or Last Jedi, whatever. At least the Rise of Skywalker kind of knew and wanted to address the polarization and tried to bring people together to a satisfying conclusion. I just don't think Jurassic World had that awareness, because it just made so much money and the fandom is just so casual that there was no need to course correct. If you're making a Jurassic World movie, there's no need to react to it the way that Rise of Skywalker reacted to the previous two movies. So it just made a bad movie on accident without trying. It seemed like they tried less. J.J. Abrams tried more. It still made a bad movie. But that's what's so fascinating about this in general, is that I'm going to shit on a movie and hate on a movie that's probably going to be loved and beloved and make a lot of money. But that doesn't mean anything, of course. The box office success doesn't mean anything. But I legitimately, I really didn't like anything about this movie. And there was maybe 1.5 interesting scenes that I liked. There were two actors, and I do want to give them credit, because I didn't know their names when I talked about them in the early out of the theater reaction. But there were two actors that they played brand new characters. And I've never seen these actors before, ever. But I do want to give them a shout out, because I actually thought they did a great job. Unfortunately, they're playing characters that just simply don't matter at all. And I've seen them do a lot of press. Mamoudou Athie, who plays Ramsey Cole. I hope I pronounced that name right. And then DeWanda Wise, who plays Kayla Watts, I believe. Those are the two actors. I actually like them a lot. But again, their characters were nothing and meant nothing to the franchise. And it's unfortunate. But I will give them credit for that. So, look, I also rewatched all of Colin Trevorrow's movies leading up to this. And I have my opinions on Colin Trevorrow. And let's just say he just... he doubled down with this one. It's uninspired. He wants to be Spielberg so bad, but just can't capture the magic. And I just don't think he gets tone. The Book of Henry, this movie has the most in common with the Book of Henry in terms of tone, in terms of being all over the place. This movie has more in common with those aspects with Book of Henry than it does its own Jurassic World prequel. It's all over the place. It is overstuffed and bloated. And not only is it overstuffed, but it's overstuffed with things that aren't interesting at all. The dinosaurs, you have your scenes with the dinosaurs, but they don't really... The plot's not really involving the dinosaurs. They're just there in the background to make everything harder, which, you can have fun with that, but it's really about, bugs. It's about locusts. And I'll talk more about that in the non-spoiler review, but it's the most uninteresting thing possible when you attack a Jurassic Park sequel or Jurassic World sequel. And everything that it leans on, it's under the guise of what we've seen before. There's a big corporation that wants to alter genetics or and they make a mistake and playing God and they want to go back and fit. All those themes are there, the themes that we've just simply exhausted because there isn't enough to do. And it's the one time where they have the most thin characters possible. It's at a time when they should just be finding a way to conclude this story in a satisfying way. Actually, play in the sandbox that you set up for yourself, because it doesn't really take place out in the world. It kind of just goes back to another place that looks like Jurassic World at one point, and again, there's the big corporation, and it's just... I felt like, and I think a lot of people felt like this, I felt like we wanted to parallel this with, say, the Matt Reeves Planet of the Apes trilogy. And this franchise and this movie never reaches that maturity at any point. The writing is terrible. It's insanely thin. There aren't really any arcs for most of our characters, and it completely wastes the legacy cast here, because they're not really doing anything to serve who they actually are, why we fell in love with them in the first place. They make terrible written jokes. At one point, Laura Dern says he slid into my DMs, and it was so cringeworthy. There's a mystery. That this movie involves a mystery that Laura Dern and Sam Neill, Alan Grant, and what's her name? Adler? Anyway, they're trying to... Ellie Sadler, excuse me. There's this mystery going on that they're trying to solve. And we find out the resolution. We discover the mystery and, find the reason that they're... way before they do. And it's not, the entire movie, because, again, this movie's overstuffed. But there's this mystery that they're looking for, and we learn about it and find out what it is way before they do. So half the time you're just watching them do things that we already know about and don't care about. And I kind of felt like that was the fatal flaw. That was the nail in the coffin. I'm just why am I interested in watching them solve this mystery that they already explained 2 scenes ago? It was really unfortunate. When it comes to the direction, at first it started off, the cinematography is maybe the most interesting that it's ever been, but again, it's just depicting a terrible story with terrible characters and a terrible script. So, and I still don't understand who Colin Trevorrow is as a director. visually or stylistically. And there were a ton of seams too, weird cuts, and the action scenes weren't really able to hold a lot of weight because the blend of CGI and practical effects, it was fine. I saw the seams again, but like there were a lot of shots, when it cuts back and forth between a dinosaur approaching our lead characters and it cuts back and forth the point of view. A lot of the times as the scene would progress, there'd be a shot where like the dinosaur was approaching the character, and then the next time you'd see it, the dinosaur would be further away and then approaching the character again. So like there were a lot of just like mismatched perspective shots. So the action wasn't really done that well. It was kind of like, it was just lazy. It came off as lazy or clumsy or just wasn't well shot. Because it wasn't conceived the way that I think they intended. And there were a lot of other things that happened. Like, I think it's in the trailer where there's like the red feather dinosaur that goes under the ice and is swimming around Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt falls into the ice because he leapt into the air, but he wasn't leaping into the air like onto anything. Like the balcony or the banister that they were approaching was still a few feet away. So he jumps for no reason and makes the ice crash. Like a lot of these like poorly conceived scenes just really took me out of it. And like I said, the movie just, I guess none of the movies are about the dinosaurs. The movies are, but in a weird way, Jurassic Park always made like a character. It gave the Velociraptors character and it gave the T-Rex character. But there's only so much you can do because at the end of the day, you're just going to decide to play with the toys and have this dinosaur fight this dinosaur. And it's entertaining, but also fairly empty and can only go so far. So there was a lot of that, just constantly like, oh, here's another scene where they run into a dinosaur, they get away, and then it bumps into another dinosaur. It's just very redundant at this point. And maybe we should have stopped at Jurassic Park 3, honestly, because now that I see where we went with this franchise, it's just not. I just don't think it really contributes anything. It's just such a hollow commercial play, this trilogy and this movie, and it just feels gross, honestly. Like I genuinely dislike this movie. I guess the last thing that I'll say is that, again, it's not thematically rich whatsoever. It's a movie that thinks it's crowd pleasing while being wildly uninteresting and lazy. It's a movie that is it's a sequel to Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Like, how far can you go with that? They still involve the girl. There's a lot of genetic splicing and DNA talk, and it's just like, that already has its criticisms, where they went with that with Fallen Kingdom. But look, the best way to sum this movie up, they brought back the legacy Jurassic Park actors and characters to make a sequel to Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Don't think of it like it's the epic conclusion to the franchise, bridging these two. I mean, I guess they do in a literal sense, but the best way to think about it is they brought back legacy Jurassic Park characters to make a sequel to Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. How great is that going to be? It's not. Unfortunately, it is not. And like I said, this fandom is too casual and it makes too much money for the studios to probably ever think that anything is wrong with this. But I legitimately, I don't think Colin Trevorrow is good. I think he's a hack. I throw that around a lot to be funny because at least I think it's funny to just throw out people are hacks. But I legitimately think Colin Trevorrow is a hack. He hasn't made a great movie yet. But I don't know. We like JJ, we gave him the reins back to this trilogy. I'm so disappointed. But again, after all the thrills and the fun action scenes with the dinosaurs, all of a sudden the end of the movie, even though we haven't been out in the world and we haven't really explained or we haven't really explored how dinosaurs and humans are coexisting, they make the end of the movie, they wrap it up with some crazy narration and this montage of dinosaurs in the same shots as like animals, like pterodactyls with birds, and then they just talk about coexistence. And they just throw it out there at the end of the movie, except for the fact that none of the movie was actually about coexistence. It was about figuring out how they get the girl's DNA to... Never mind. It's just silly and bad. And that's really all that I have to say about that in the non-spoiler section. I've already gone 20 minutes, and it's just... I can't recommend it. I hated it. I'm sorry. I hated it so much. Those are my thoughts on Jurassic World Dominion. If you're in the comment section down below, let me know what you think. Am I being too harsh? Or do you agree with me? You know, I saw some like-minded tweets, but I also see people like acting like it's the second coming of movies, and they're out of their minds. Have they watched any other movies? Come on. So anyway, there's my non-spoiler thoughts. If you're watching this on YouTube, check out my Every Movie Ever episodes covering the Jurassic Park franchise and Colin Trevorrow ranked, because that's a fun time. Welcome to Every Movie Ever. I'm Ryan Snelling. I've just seen Jurassic World Dominion, and I'm ready to rank every Jurassic Park movie that exists. So there's not going to be any visuals here. I'm just going to spit them out to you and let you know how I feel about them. It's going to be really quick, really breezy. I'm also going to do an Every Movie Ever covering every movie directed by Colin Trevorrow. So that's a fun time. So after you watch this, go check out that episode, or just listen to the Watch Diary podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. So anyway, guys, let's just get these out of the way. Let's rank Jurassic Park movies. Of course, that covers both trilogies, right? Okay, you knew that already. So let's start with the worst. The worst is a movie I literally just got done reviewing on the channel. It is Jurassic World Dominion. Now, I kind of questioned, like, how does a franchise like this come to an epic conclusion? It's not a franchise that's narratively rich. There's not a whole lot of lore. A lot of the themes that the original explored so well are kind of just recycled continuously and done worse continuously as this movie goes. So is the only real play left to put those legacy characters in with the new cast of characters? Probably is. And I said it in my review, but the simplest way, forget epic conclusion, forget all that, forget what you wanted to do. This is quite simply a sequel to Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom that includes the legacy cast. I mean, that's kind of it. How good can that possibly be? Turns out it's not good. It's wildly disappointing and unsatisfying. There's no sustenance whatsoever to Jurassic World Dominion, and I was wildly disappointed in it. So if you want my thoughts, I have them over on the movie review on the other video, but Jurassic World Dominion I think it's terrible. I think it's really bad, actually. So that's the worst Jurassic Park movie. Coming in at number 5 is Jurassic Park 3. Yes, look, this movie, it turns the Jurassic Park franchise into a Sci-Fi Channel original. Do you take that as an insult? Sci-Fi's evolved over the years. It feels like a dinosaur movie on the Sci-Fi Channel. It takes everything that was great about the first movie and just condenses it and morphs it into this super generic monster movie where they have to go in and rescue a kid from the island, and they just encounter a bunch of dinosaurs that are fun to run into. It's terrible CGI, probably the worst CGI of the entire franchise. And again, you waste the legacy cast. You waste Alan Grant as Sam Neill, because Sam Neill just turned to literally anybody could have done what Alan Grant did in that movie. And it's a super generic, forgettable thrill ride. There are a couple of moments that are interesting overall, and I think even some of the green screen work at the beginning of the movie actually looked really well, but the CGI was terrible. And Jurassic Park 3, it doesn't commit as many sins as Jurassic World Dominion does, so it's like harmlessly bad in a way. And when you watch Jurassic Park 3, you walk away from the trilogy, somehow it doesn't taint how great Jurassic Park is, because I think Jurassic Park is untouchable. No movie can make it worse. But it wasn't nearly as harmful when it was just three, and maybe you had 1.5 and 1 3/4 good movies and just one stinker. It just didn't seem like it affected the trilogy at all. So it's still number 5, though, with that said. Number 4 is Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. And I think the quality of these two movies, they're like neck and neck. And, one has to be above the other when you do a ranking. So Fallen Kingdom is just above Jurassic Park 3. Now, the characters in the Jurassic World trilogy are nothing, right? So I'm really just kind of looking forward to, at this point, what is visually most interesting, and where are they taking like really big swings, whether they work or not. Where are they taking big swings with the narrative? I think the visual identity of this movie is stronger than any other Jurassic World movie directed by Colin Trevorrow. This one is stronger visually. And I just think it's a little bit more interesting how we have the first half as a rescue mission for the dinosaurs to get them off the island. And the second half, we've seen it before, but the auction and this sort of haunted house sequence that we have going on, I just think that's a little bit more interesting, even though it's happening to characters and ultimately in a movie that I just don't really care about. And I appreciate it for that, but also it's also the most polarizing movie, I feel like, in the trilogy, because I feel like Fallen Kingdom, it's like The Last Jedi, even though it's not nearly as good as The Last Jedi in general. It has its fans, and it has people that absolutely hate it. It's interesting how much the Jurassic World trilogy parallels the Star Wars sequel trilogy in that way. But Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom isn't nearly as good as it should have been, unfortunately. But I do give it a little bit of credit. Jurassic World, again, just narrowly above Fallen Kingdom. Jurassic World is my number 3 pick. Jurassic World, look, it recycles a lot of the same beats as the first one. Thematically, it uses a lot of the same beats. But I do find it the most entertaining from beginning to end. It was at least fun and nostalgic, because at first I feel like we were getting it right. When you're watching Jurassic World, at first you're like, oh, we're doing it. Like, we're actually coming out with the greatest sequel to Jurassic Park. Ultimately, we don't get it. And I think even Jurassic World Dominion sort of diminishes that a little bit more. But there are some thrilling ideas and sequences, the velociraptors attacking. Once the velociraptors turn at night, there's a sequence where it hunts everybody. We have Chris Pratt training raptors. All those aspects are intriguing and interesting, and I think they promise to better movies that we didn't ultimately get. I do think it's entertaining enough. Though hollow, it's entertaining enough that I do find it to be the most rewatchable of the Jurassic World movies. So Jurassic World is my number 3 favorite Jurassic Park movie. Number 2 comes so close to being like a really good sequel to Jurassic Park, but ultimately falls short. And that is The Lost World, Jurassic Park. That's my number 2. I think this movie gets more hate than it should. There are definite flaws, careless flaws. For a movie that's directed by Steven Spielberg, you'd expect, especially direct follow-up to one of his all-time favorite movies. But not even Spielberg could have made it work. Like, shouldn't that have been enough for Hollywood to realize, like, we just can't make another Jurassic Park movie? Not even Steven Spielberg, who made the original an immediate classic, an immediate hit, one of the greatest movies of all time. Not even he could figure out a worthy sequel. Not even he could replicate what he did with the first one. And, we see this time and time again. But again, not even Steven Spielberg can make Dinosaurs as cool a second time. There are some really interesting sequences. I like the one at night with the caravan and when the 2 T-Rexes attack. It gets a little silly in the third act, and there's a lot of problems with that. And I think following Jeff Goldblum in that movie, it's maybe the best decision that they could have done, but ultimately they don't take that seriously either. I mean, we're not even talking about Jeff Goldblum as a father when we see him again in Jurassic World Dominion, because the daughter stuff just didn't work. It also has the second best cast, I think, of any movie, even though, again, they are nameless, empty characters. compared to the number one Jurassic Park or movie, which is Jurassic Park. Yeah, I almost look, everything that's ever been said about Jurassic Park has been said. I don't need to go over why it's great. It's just obviously, and there's no way anyone on earth disagrees. It is easily the best Jurassic Park movie, hands down. So, again, I'm going to go over it one more time. Dead last, number 6, Jurassic World Dominion. Number 5 is Jurassic Park 3. Number 4 is Fallen Kingdom. Number 3, Jurassic World. Number 2, The Lost World. Number 1 is Jurassic Park. Guys, every ranking, every list that I do on every movie ever is on my Letterboxd. So go to letterboxd.com/rewatchryan. Every time the episode goes out, I make it public so you can keep track of all the lists that I do on every movie ever, but also some lists that I don't do videos for. I've got a lot going on. So follow me on Letterboxd, letterboxd.com/rewatchryan. Thank you so much. Go check out my every movie ever for Colin Trevorrow. I'll see you on the next one. What's up, guys? All right, let's do every movie ever for director Colin Trevorrow. Look, I don't think Colin Trevorrow is a good director. I really don't. I know he wants to be Spielberg so bad, but we're 4 feature-length films into Colin Trevorrow's career, and I just don't know who he is as a director yet, unfortunately. I just don't. Visually, his movies aren't interesting, and I think, honestly, they get progressively worse as they go along, and he's turned into a director that I just feel like doesn't know how to balance tone anymore. He just has no identity, and it's really, really unfortunate, and I want to get excited about Jurassic World movies. I always have. For 7 years I've wanted to, but with him being a part of the franchise, I just couldn't. And all the drama going around with Star Wars, I made fun of him plenty, even though we still got a bad movie, but I still made fun of him plenty because he's just not the guy. And there are some people out there that think he's the guy, and he's just not. I mean, this is maybe my least favorite filmography, maybe, that I've ever done on every movie ever. And I just feel like this is an obligation. But we got another Colin Trevorrow movie, and he hasn't made that many movies, so why not do a ranking of every Colin Trevorrow movie? I think he's a hack. I really do. I really do. I know that sounds silly and harsh, but I don't like him. I just don't think he's a great director. I really don't. So let's rank these 4 Colin Trevorrow movies, and then we'll get the hell out of here. Number 4, it also happens to be the worst Jurassic Park movie ever made, and I've got plenty of content around the channel and podcast feed discussing it. But Jurassic World Dominion, it's the worst one. It's his worst Jurassic World movie, which already helps my rankings, and it's the one of all the movies I just feel like it's way too overbloated and has way too many characters that don't do anything, and is wildly all over the place when it comes to tone, and he doesn't ever up himself from his previous movies with this. I feel like his movies, for the most part, get progressively worse, as I already mentioned, and I just, it's crazy. I don't feel like he's improved in any way as a director, and it's easily his worst one, unfortunately. So Jurassic World Dominion is dead last when it comes to Colin Trevorrow's 4 feature movies. Number 3 is The Book of Henry, and I go straight there because The Book of Henry is the other movie that varies wildly in tone, and at one point, I don't know if you've seen it, it bombed at the box office, and I didn't watch it until recently. I almost put out a video for it, but I realized it wasn't worth it at all, and it's not worth anybody's time. But The Book of Henry varies wildly in tone, and at first you think it's just going to be this sweet and sad, sweet and salty movie about a mother raising her 2 kids, one who has special needs, and there's a tragedy, and it's very sad. I mean, and it's well acted. Jacob Tremblay, it really got me going a little bit. It's manipulative in that way, but then it just takes a harsh left turn, and it becomes just so damn silly and completely ruins everything it had going for it. And I just don't think Colin Trevorrow had to answer for that movie enough, and he didn't learn from his mistakes in any way. But there are a lot of scenes that are like tolerable and worth watching compared to Jurassic World Dominion. But anyway, so The Book of Henry is number 3, but I would never recommend either of these movies. Number 2 is the better Jurassic Park movie, and that is Jurassic World. I think it's watchable. I think it's rewatchable, and I think it's entertaining enough, even though it's still hollow. It was a promising start to the trilogy, and I ultimately wish that they improved upon it. They never do. So it is one of the better Jurassic Park sequels, but ultimately it's still not that great of a movie. I just put out my out of the theater reaction from 2015 on the channel, so definitely check that out. You can see exactly how I felt about this movie coming out of it. I recorded that with Jay Williams 7 years ago, so check that out on the channel if you want to hear more thoughts on Jurassic World. That leaves one more movie, and this might be one of the shortest every movie ever's. Safety Not Guaranteed. I had fond memories of watching Safety Not Guaranteed. I really enjoyed it all those years ago. I can't remember what festival it was at. Maybe it was Sundance, but it got a lot of heat coming out of that festival. There were a lot of write-ups on it on the movie blogs that I was reading at the time, and Aubrey Plaza was coming up, Jake Johnson was coming up, Mark Duplass. It was it hit right at the time, and I enjoyed it then. And I've always thought of it as Colin Trevorrow's best movie. All these years later, I rewatched it the other day. It obviously is Colin Trevorrow's best movie based on the fact that this is the one I'm talking about. But it's not nearly as good as I remember. I think it is his most solid film. I think it is his most harmless film, just because it's not like offensively bad. I don't actually think it's bad at all, but it's hardly good or memorable or rewatchable, and it's certainly not great. And it's not really a movie that I have any sort of love or fandom for. It's just like, oh, that was a nice movie to rent one night and I'll never think of it again kind of thing. It's not the movie I think of when I think of Mark Duplass. It's not the movie I think about when I think of any of those actors. It's an interesting hook. It's a great hook. It's a great premise, but it just becomes a fine movie. But it's his most competent work. Still lackluster. Safety Not Guaranteed is number one. So again, Jurassic World Dominion is dead last. The Book of Henry is number 3. Jurassic World is number 2. And Safety Not Guaranteed is Colin Trevorrow's best movie. So if you haven't noticed, he does get progressively worse with all of his movies. I literally just listed the order in which they were released, but backwards. Yeah, his best movie was his first movie. There's another movie that he did called Reality Show that I think is considered a feature, but I can't find it anywhere. So for the people that are like, oh, what about Reality Show? Not doing it. I couldn't even find it on Letterboxd. So Safety Not Guaranteed, as far as I'm concerned, it's his first movie. Okay? So there's Every Movie Ever for Colin Trevorrow. If you haven't watched it already, check out my Every Movie Ever covering all the Jurassic Park movies. And if you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, go check out the Watch Diary podcast. That's where I put all of these videos into a podcast audio form. And I've got my review of Jurassic World Dominion up there now. So thank you so much for listening. That was Every Movie Ever. All right, I guess all that's left is the spoiler talk for Jurassic World Dominion. I decided I'm probably going to kibosh the podcast after this, so just look for the Mission Impossible Every Movie Ever at a later time. I've already done enough here, and so we'll save that. There's plenty of time for that. But again, just a reminder, me and Brando are going to release the 40th anniversary video covering, E.T., so be on the lookout for that. As far as I know, he's watching it. He doesn't even think he's seen it, so it's bound to be an entertaining conversation. He might be watching it for the very first time. We'll see. So anyway, check that out. It's a proper Amblin movie compared to Jurassic World Dominion. So let's talk spoilers here, and this will be brief. There's not a whole lot more I need to add with spoilers. But look, at the top of the movie, we're watching this, now this report covering how dinosaurs have affected the ecosystem. And right away, I'm like, oh, this is just going to be humans navigating their world with dinosaurs. It's going to be a mature Flintstones. And it's going to be a more mature Jurassic World movie compared to the previous ones. And maybe to my detriment, I thought we might get a Planet of the Apes level quality film here. But one thing I realized too, and I guess I talked about it in the non-spoiler, but there's not enough chemically that you can do to give there's not enough there to give like an epic conclusion to the Jurassic Park saga, if that makes sense. Like, how do you do that? Do you kill all the dinosaurs? No, because that's part of the discussion or the ethics. Should we have made these things? Now that we have made them, should they still exist? How do we coexist? Coexist is the theme that this movie wanted to be about, coexistence, and it's simply not. So the most uninteresting thing possible happened, which was a team of locusts destroyed a farm and, presumably destroyed other farms and was about to take out the food supply. But instead of becoming interstellar with dinosaurs, it becomes, let's watch these legacy characters figure out who's behind the locust attacks. But again, the movie tells us that it was Dr. Wu way before the characters find out about it, and it's just an excuse for all of our characters to meet up. And the scenes at the end of the third act where literally like all like 7 or 8 characters are just running around together in a ball of people, it's hilarious looking. Because there's not enough for any of them to do. So it's just like almost literally 10 people in the shot just moving around in a huddle. And it's not interesting at all. And there's no like satisfying character moments. I don't think the fan service was good at all. I mean, you just brought back the actors, and I guess there's a moment where Dr. Alan Grant puts on his hat again, and there's a moment where Sadler takes off her sunglasses in the slow mo. But like, I'm sorry. It's good to see it. It's good to see them recycle the shot of someone taking their glasses off. What else? Like, you got to do more than that. You got to do more than that. So the fact that this uninteresting mystery involving the locust gets solved, and we're just trying to get everybody together, and it doesn't work in any way. The dinosaurs, it may be the least fun I've ever had with any of the dinosaurs. I know a lot of people are going to have fun with the T-Rex fighting I can't remember the name, but the Allosaurus, what's mistaken to be the Allosaurus. All that stuff, it was so empty. It wasn't fun anymore to see those dinosaurs fight because it was just random. And it also just wasn't well shot at all. A lot of this was very poorly shot, but a lot of what was going on in that escape scene with the dinosaurs fighting, I couldn't see anything. All of a sudden, I just saw there was a cut to of the T-Rex supposedly dead on the door that Chris Pratt and company were hiding under. And it just cut to that, and I was like, wait a minute, I don't think I even saw that they went under there. It was very poorly shot. It was too dark. And again, it just wasn't even that interesting to begin with. It was so empty, all of it. And it was so all over the place. And I kind of that's really all that I had to say in spoilers. I'm sure that I'll think of more, but also this movie just isn't worth any more of my time. It really is not. And the fact that, again, I can't believe that it's of course obviously a Fallen Kingdom sequel, but I can't believe that so much of it hinged upon that character. I mean, it's like Rise of Skywalker. They wasted so much time bringing in new characters and adding to the lore and adding to the story. It's just like, we're not ending anything. All we're doing is starting shit up. We're introducing new characters and trying to give them things to do. It's like, no, stop it. Try to do something with the characters that we have here. And again, it wasn't even fun or cute to see the Jurassic World cast with the Jurassic Park cast. They didn't do anything with it. They just combined them together and they walked around in a scene. Oh, man, what a waste. What a bloated, hollow waste. And that's that. I barely got anything out. That's really all that I had to say. And it's really unfortunate. But that's it. That's it for Watch Diary, covering Jurassic World Dominion and Colin Trevorrow. I don't know, maybe two of my least favorite topics to discuss in the year of 2022. Guys, thank you so much. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Rewatch Ryan. I'm on TikTok at Rewatch Ryan and letterboxd.com/rewatch Ryan. Like I said, I think other than this, the next thing on the schedule is, let me pull up my doc real quick. The next thing on the schedule is the E.T. 40th anniversary rewatch, but it might become a never before seen. And then we have The Bourne Identity has its 20th anniversary on June 14th in 5 days. One of my all-time favorite movies. That means I got to do it every movie ever for the Bourne franchise. So that's going to be fun to do next week. I'm going to see Lightyear and then every movie ever, Toy Story, Spiderhead's coming out soon, and then we'll update the Joseph Kosinski ranking. So yeah, June 21st. That's the big date, though. I'm rewatching Minority Report. That's the day. June 24th, Minority Report. I'm so excited for that. So anyway, be on the lookout, whether you watch on the Rewatch Ryan YouTube channel or if you listen on the Watch Diary podcast. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you so much. Let me know what you think of Jurassic World. Bye, guys.